Hello, and welcome back, English 1302 students, to this third video close reading of a scholarly source for your research paper. The author is R. Drew Griffith, and the title is Asserting Eternal Providence, the Odyssey in Sophocles' Oedipus the King. Just as a reminder, your research question is this. In a hypothetical murder trial based on the plot and testimony of Sophocles' Oedipus Tyrannus, would an Athenian jury support a verdict of free and guilty or determined and not guilty? Before we begin our discussion of this essay, let's review how the first two scholars answer this question. Edward M. Harris finds Oedipus guilty of deliberate homicide. Alan H. Summerstein finds Oedipus not guilty of willful or unwillful homicide. He supports a verdict of self-defense. As we turn to this third essay, you will need to have your copy handy. Remember that a close reading requires your full attention. You will also need to take notes. Once again, the author is R. Drew Griffith. The title is Asserting Eternal Providence, the Odyssey in Oedipus the King. We will not read closely the entire essay. Our focus will be pages 195, 196, and 197, paragraphs 7 to 10. The title has some key words that we should discuss. Providence has to do with the belief that the gods know everything that is going to happen. They have foresight about Oedipus's life. They know what will happen to him, and their oracles tell him so. But if the gods know about evil, does that mean they cause evil things to happen to Oedipus? A theodicy is a justification for the gods as good, even if they know about the evil that is going to happen to Oedipus. In other words, the gods may know that something evil is going to happen, but they don't make it happen. They warn Laius about his son killing him, so Laius tries to kill Oedipus first. His plan doesn't work, so the boy grows to a man, and the oracle changes from just killing his father to also committing incest with his mother. Is that because the child is now a man who can replace the father he kills as both king and husband? Did the gods cause this to happen, or did human choices cause it? A theodicy would argue that the gods know about evil, but they don't cause it. It's the kind of question scholars have been debating about this play for more than 2,000 years. R. Drew Griffith is one of those scholars. He is a professor of Greek and Latin literature with 32 years of experience teaching at Queen's College in Canada. Like Harris and Summerstein, he has published many articles. Our goal for this close reading is as follows. When complete, you should be able to define the three kinds of Athenian homicide: unintentional killings, justified killings, and intentional killing. We will begin reading on page 195, where Griffith states his purpose, which I have underlined for you. Griffith states his purpose as follows. Let us examine the crime under these two headings, homicide and father abuse, beginning by examining the murder of Laius in the context of 5th century Athenian law. We are not interested in father abuse or parricide. We are only interested in homicide. Page 196 is an important page for your essay. In paragraphs 8, 9, and 10, Griffith defines and describes the three kinds of killing recognized by Athenian law. Griffith offers one of the clearest explanations of Athenian law for categories of murder, which you will need to define in your essay. The first kind is unintentional killing or unintentional murder, which Griffith says is the equivalent of our manslaughter. How does Griffith define unintentional killing? What does Griffith say to show that Oedipus's murder of Laius is not unintentional? You should cross out the sentence beginning with the hero of Oedipus Colonus and ending with parricide. That sentence is not relevant to your essay because it discusses a play you did not read and a verdict you are not writing about. Oedipus knew that he, Laius, was a human being and that his act was homicide, Griffith says. Remember, Oedipus says, I killed them all. So Oedipus cannot claim unintentional homicide, which is the unintentional killing of an innocent victim. The second kind is justified killing, which is the intentional killing of a criminal caught in the act. Edward M. Harris examines this kind of homicide in detail in his essay. You should recall that Oedipus lists 8 kinds of justifiable homicide on page 132 of his essay. Let us answer these questions using paragraph 9. Does 21st century law have this category? Can Oedipus claim he was attacked by a highwayman or a criminal caught in the act? The answer to the first question is no, because American law has no justified homicide like that of Athenian law. The answer to the second question is also no. According to Griffith, Oedipus does not claim to have thought that Laius was a robber. So for Griffith, he cannot claim he killed Laius because Laius was a criminal, which would meet the highwayman category of justified homicide. The third kind of murder is intentional homicide, which is the same as deliberate or willful homicide. Griffith explains that self-defense is in this category. In Athenian law, self-defense comes under intentional homicide. At first, that may seem surprising, but if you think about it, it makes sense to include self-defense in this category. When defending yourself against a lethal attack, killing your attacker would be intentional in order to save your own life. It would not be an accidental killing. Does Griffith think Oedipus can claim self-defense? What must Oedipus prove in order to do so? Griffith says it's not enough to say that the person you killed struck you first. Oedipus would have to show that Laius was about to kill him. Griffith says that Oedipus does not argue self-defense, but says that Laius only wanted to drive him from the road. Griffith does not seem to think Oedipus can claim self-defense. Now, let's review the 3 categories. First, unintentional homicide is the unintentional killing of an innocent victim, what we would call manslaughter. Griffith says Oedipus cannot claim this verdict because he knew that Laius was a human being and that he was committing homicide by killing him. He says, I killed them all. The second category, justified homicide, is the intentional killing of a criminal caught in the act. Under this law, Oedipus could legally kill an adulterer or a highwayman who tried to rob him. This category of Athenian law has no equivalent in American law, which does not allow us to legally kill someone who commits adultery with a spouse or who simply robs us. Griffith says Oedipus cannot claim this verdict because he does not identify Laius as a robber. Finally, the third category is intentional homicide. This is ordinary murder, says Griffith, and it would get the most severe sentence if Oedipus is found guilty. Self-defense is, strictly speaking, a special kind of intentional homicide because there are mitigating circumstances that cause the murder. The requirements to claim self-defense, however, are high. Griffith says that the person cannot claim self-defense because his victim struck him first. He can claim self-defense if he can prove that his victim meant to kill him. Griffith does not think Oedipus can claim self-defense because he does not say Laius was trying to kill him. Now, this review fulfills the purpose for our close reading, which is to define the 3 categories of homicide in Athenian law. However, A and B papers will want to explore Griffith's more detailed explanation of the law in paragraph 11. Griffith answers these questions about Athenian homicide law in paragraph 11, and A and B essays will want to incorporate his discussion into W4 in their definition section and W5 in their argument sections. Please note, this section of the essay is not required and will not be on the quiz. Now that we have come to the end of this close reading, let us consider what verdict Griffith seems to support. Do you think his essay argues for guilty or not guilty? Although our close reading does not include his thesis statement, Griffith seems to support a guilty verdict. For example, in paragraph 10, he states that Oedipus does not argue for self-defense. As you read each scholarly essay, keep in mind that every scholar is offering an interpretation of the play regarding Oedipus's guilt or innocence. Remember that your topic is debatable, meaning there is no final answer that is factually true. Scholarly articles blend fact, in this case the details of the play and perhaps original Greek text of Athenian law, with opinion. They use this information to argue for a thesis about the research question. However, other scholars may argue the opposite. We have now completed the close reading for our purpose, and you should be able to define the 3 types of homicide in Athenian law: unintentional killing, justified killing, and intentional killing. You may wonder why we are not reading the entire essay. The rest of the essay considers Oedipus's guilt or innocence using ancient Greek moral law from the heroic period, hundreds of years before 5th century BC. It is not relevant to your essay. Even though Griffith includes his thesis on page 206 of the essay, which supports a guilty verdict, you cannot use it because it does not rely on Athenian law, which is part of your research question. You will need to review this essay and video for a quiz and for the W4 definition sections of your essay.